Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. So, Tommy Robinson is going to prison after pleading guilty, making some people wonder why he was fleecing his supporters for legal donations this week. I'll give you a clue. Begins with Luton Airport and ends with Lisbon Airport. But also at the weekend, Reform UK made their opposition to not only Tommy Robinson, but all of his supporters really clear, explicit. That includes all the law-abiding supporters who may well have voted for Reform UK. Tice has just told them to all disappear into the gutter because he wants nothing to do with them. Right then. But first, for daily political commentary, please click the subscribe button so you don't miss out. So, Tommy Robinson continues to provide us with the entertainment in British politics as he's sent to prison, although not in a particularly entertaining way. 18 months, when the maximum was 24 months, because he pleaded guilty. Now, it's worth mentioning that Robinson has, as usual, been pushing his crowdfunder recently to get supporters to donate to his legal fees. I mean, when he came through Luton Airport at the start of last week, first thing he did was, with his camera crew there, because he was expecting to be detained at that point, was, oh, I thought I'd be arrested. I wasn't arrested. I'm so surprised. By the way, donate to my crowdfund. I need legal fees, please. Thank you very much. You know, you think to yourself, well, Robinson is facing numerous legal challenges, both criminal and civil, so he certainly has legal expenses. I mean, he wouldn't have if he just didn't break the law, but there you go. But when you click on the link to donate, it makes clear that the donations were, and still are, soliciting specifically for the contempt of court charges he faced today. But he pleaded guilty. So where's all the money he grifted gone to? I know he did try and set aside the warrant last week. So that would have, you know, he'd have paid a solicitor to do that. Sure, okay. But the rest of it, like, he's not going to trial. What legal fees? Where's the money going to? The Mediterranean next year, I suspect. And unless he faces more convictions in the meantime, by my reckoning, he'll be out of prison in time for next summer, when, yes, he will absolutely, definitely piss off to the continent again, with his supporters' money and his Irish passport. Oh, and just for a chuckle, the donation page, it has suggested donations, of course, as these things do, in dollars. You know, just in case you still thought that he somehow cares about dear old England and this is his focus. No, mate, he's out of the country most of the time for a reason. He's an international scam artist who will have plenty of money coming in from foreign countries, right? But anyway, that's by the by. He's going to prison again for not a particularly long time again. The real interest here is, will the police launch a proper investigation into his involvement in the summer riots? You know, we may not know for some time, but in the meantime, we can sit back and watch the tennis match, which is Tommy Robinson and Nigel Farage attacking one another, or at least with their posses. It's like a custody battle in some ways, isn't it, for their common supporters. I'm sure that there will be Tommy Robinson supporters who just don't vote at all and wouldn't have voted this election because they think it's all corrupt, right? But of those who do, and I haven't seen polling on this, so it's pure speculation on my part, I would imagine most of them would have voted Reform UK. What about you? But after Farage was seen to throw Robinson under the bus this summer, there might have been a loss of support from the knuckle-dragging community for Reform UK. But of course, that could just be a blip, right? A bit of argy-bargy over the summer, forgotten about. I did discuss at the Tommy Robinson rally, the one that didn't include Tommy Robinson, who isn't Tommy Robinson anyway, on Saturday. And one of the speakers was going on about Farage throwing them all under the bus, stabbing them all in the back, all the rest of it. So, you know, no love lost. But, you know, you think to yourself, the only representation these thugs realistically have in Parliament is via Reform UK. Yes, there are some prominent Tory MPs who seem willing to feed their hate. There's no guarantee that the party at large will represent their views to the same extent as Reform UK. After all, there doesn't seem to be any argument about the salient points between the Reform UK MPs. But now the ante has been raised further, and arguably more permanently, not a blip anymore, because Richard Tice at the weekend, Deputy Leader of Reform UK, has been drawing a line in the sand. He was asked, point blank, if Tommy Robinson was a good guy, and he was answering it before the question was even finished. It was not a difficult question for him. He said, without any hesitation, no. In fact, he said, no, All of that lot, we have nothing to do with them. And he was clear what he meant here was Tommy Robinson's supporters, not just Tommy Robinson, not just the ones who like took part in the riots, even the ones who don't have criminal records. He was really explicit. It's like all of them, right? The interviewer put it to him that some of the protesters, and she did mean protesters, not rioters, had banners saying two-tier Keir. And she said, well, you agree with that? To which Tice responded, we agree with ourselves. He said his party was not aligning themselves with Tommy Robinson's lot in any shape or form, he said. So that's it then. It's fair to say that there was never any explicit alignment between Robinson and Farage and Reform UK. They didn't really share platforms very often. You could always pretend if you wanted to. If you're a Reform UK supporter, for example, who doesn't support Tommy Robinson, you could always pretend that they never had anything to do with one another. It was just a pure coincidence that they use exactly the same rhetoric, they both tell the same lies, they both argue for the same policies with very little variation between them. So it's obvious enough, anyone attracted to support Tommy Robinson would have thought the likes of Farage, Tice, Anderson and so on were on their side. Tice is now saying, no, you're not, mate. So there's now a sort of like maybe custody battle for the supporters, because it'd be very difficult for any common supporters to sit comfortably supporting both now, because they're openly hostile to one another. After all, politics is very tribal. For a lot of the most committed political activists, whether legally active or not, if you attack their chief, it's like you're attacking them. People take it personally. And Tice is attacking... Well, actually, he is attacking their movement very explicitly, not just Tommy Robinson, which means he is attacking everyone who is part of it, whether you're going out smashing streets up or not, or pissing in the doorsteps, right? So maybe not a custody battle after all, because it actually sounds like Reform UK aren't bothered if they lose those supporters at the next election. Or maybe they're making the calculation, look, if you're going to vote for anyone, you're still going to vote for us, right? We're going to take your vote for granted. But, is it sensible? I actually think it probably is. Like, first of all, although Reform UK bang on about the number of votes they won, whenever they do so, they only actually link it with the unfairness of the electoral system, which is actually the right way to do it. Because only a mug points to a share of the popular vote in a first-past-the-post system as if it's an achievement. It's not. The only achievement in an election on offer is power. Now, in a representative system, yes, your share of the national vote should equal power. Doesn't in our system. Reform UK, if they want more power at the next election, they can earn fewer votes but win more seats. They'll take the same strategy Lib Dems did for this election. Ed Davey took a specific strategy of not trying to maximise the popular vote. He was just focusing on the seats he could realistically win. And as a result, won almost all of them. Reform UK's vote is too spread out. They have votes all over the place, utterly worthless to them. They need to concentrate it in winnable seats, and if that means sacrificing it in unwinnable seats, if they want to win more seats, that's the attitude they need, and it is the attitude they look like they're starting to adopt. It means they have to broaden their appeal, not to win more votes across the country, but to win more votes in those target seats. And it's very clear from polling this summer, which Tice will certainly have seen, that there are way more voters in those target seats, even amongst those who voted Reform UK this year, who do blame Tommy Robinson for the riots and don't think the rioters had just cause for their actions than those who do. So in a pure numbers game, Reform UK do stand to gain more votes than they stand to lose by disowning outlaws who happen to share their political ideas. Desecrating the cenotaph, punching a horse every now and then, pissing in the streets, kicking people's walls in, using the bricks to lob at the police. That is not something Reform UK wants to be seen even making excuses for. Because what you'll notice is at the start of the riots, they were making excuses to begin with, weren't they? They were making excuses for them. And then now they're not. Now they're completely disowning themselves. It's interesting, isn't it? So they've obviously worked out that, it's best to make a clean break of it, position themselves firmly in opposition to Robinson's crowd. But what does it mean for the Tommy Robinson supporters who saw Reform UK as allies? Now, maybe some still will. there will inevitably, I suppose, be some who are pragmatic and they will decide that, well, you know, they're just saying that for strategic purposes, which will be true, and that anyone pushing for the same political outcomes as is actually an ally, even if they say they're not, right? But there are bound to be quite a lot of them, thin-skinned, thick-foreheaded, but thin-skinned, who thought they'd finally got some friends in Parliament, and now they feel that they're being thrown under the bus. You know, just like poor old Tommy. Poor old spends 80% of his time sunning himself on the beach, Tommy. Although, of course, like I say, he won't be seeing the beach for a little while now. But what will they do now? You know, will they think that the political route is a dead end to them? That it's not possible to achieve their aims via a parliamentary process because it involves backstabbing? You know, these are the people who are not, you know, naturally aligned with peaceful processes, shall we say that? Will they now be more inclined to kick the shit out of our communities because their poor brains can't comprehend the fact that they're not actually on the side of the majority and they're not acting in the interests of the majority, and the majority know that? Be interested to see how this one plays out. Hopefully with Robinson facing way more serious charges in time and his cronies as well, and seeing them overburdening an already stretched prison service. But I don't mind that. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, you can join for memberships. Thanks for watching. And until next time, I'll see you later.